thank you for your cooperation. This session will be about we have streamlined our QA operations with AI agents. It's not just that. I will mainly be talking about how to establish AI utilization throughout the entire organization. This is the flow of today's presentation. First, I'd like to briefly introduce our organization and our QA operations. Next, QA Agent Platform. We call it QAAP, and after introducing what QAAP is, I will talk about the mechanisms and initiatives we undertook to overcome two challenges we encountered when establishing AI utilization across the entire organization. My name is Guida from the Product QA unit. We are a QA specialized organization belonging to the cross-sectional organization of the CTO domain. Our organization has about 20 members, with offices in Fukuoka and Tokyo. We provide long-term and short-term support for various projects, contributing to the service quality of Line and FUE. Often, is Q&A referred to as Q&A? I'm often asked about this. This stands for quality assurance. What do you mean by quality? The attractive quality when users use the service? Not only the quality of the service itself during use, but also and are involved in the quality of the development process. Therefore, our role is not just to check for defects as a gatekeeper before release. Such extensive quality assurance. In order to accelerate efficiency even further, we developed QAAP of QAAP. Let me give you a simple overview. QAAP is an organizational repository-based template platform that runs on Codex CLI and Codex App. It is managed by GHE and can be utilized by anyone. The setup process is also well developed, and parts that might cause issues are automatically configured with shell scripts. When a user requests a task from Codex, it connects to various MCPs within the company to gather information based on that request. Once the information gathering is complete, we use specialized skills for each QA task, which have been infused with QA expertise to create test deliverables. At every point in this workflow, we also have a robust multi-layered defense system that monitors and blocks inputs that could lead to security risks. Additionally, it includes custom skill support features tailored for specific projects, as well as it also has enhanced management functions, such as a custom skills market. QAAP2? What kind of effects have we seen since the entire organization started using it? The work time for corporate sales was streamlined by nearly 50%. The number of QA deliverables generated increased by about 1.5 times. The AI replacement rate for deliverables also reached close to 70%. Like this. As productivity improved. For example, people can focus on tasks that require human intervention. Additionally, we are now able to secure time to think about AI utilization. That concludes our presentation, an introduction to the organization, and a brief introduction to QAAP. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Fukunaga-san, the development lead for QAAP. My name is Fukunaga from the Product QA unit. From here, I will talk about the challenges we faced and how we dealt with them as we promoted AI utilization across the entire QA organization. Today, I will focus on two themes that are likely to occur in many organizations. The first hurdle is the challenge of pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. This is because, as an organization, everyone wants to use AI more to accelerate their work and achieve results. This is an accelerator we want to really push. On the other hand, there are risks regarding safety that we need to be careful about. We want to make sure the brakes are working properly. These two seemingly contradictory things. At the same time, it needs to be established across the entire organization. This is the first theme. The second hurdle is to expand AI utilization to the entire organization, not just a few individuals. So-called early adopters will proactively master its use. This in itself is a very good thing. However, that know-how tends to become tacit knowledge. This is something skilled people deliberately hide. That is not the case. Rather, there are more people who actively share their methods. However, for others to replicate it in the same way it's difficult due to various factors. Many organizations may have similar concerns. To address these challenges, we have been working on both the system and the initiatives. From here, we will introduce the specific contents. Well then, first, I will speak from the perspective of the mechanism. I will talk about a case study where we address challenges through the underlying QAAP. First, the first hurdle, regarding the accelerator and the brake. Regarding the accelerator side of the story, as I introduced at the beginning, we have confirmed a certain level of effectiveness, primarily through the use of preset skills that cover a wide range of QA tasks. However, since that topic is individually optimized, we hope to introduce it on another occasion. Conversely, the brakes are directly related to the main theme. This time, we will delve into that in particular. First, regarding the brakes. First, as a premise. In the environment surrounding AI, there are risks that cannot be ignored. As you all know, in 100 years, something like Mainichi will emerge. For example, handling confidential information, prompt injection, and preparing for supply chain attacks. Originally, I would like to continue to push the accelerator for AI utilization for direct work efficiency. Well, these kinds of problems come up every time, and we end up having to slam on the brakes and play catch-up every time. And as an organization, we need to ensure that each individual is able to handle that. Are we understanding the risks and using it appropriately? It is actually difficult to accurately grasp the actual situation of each individual. In other words, entrusting such measures solely to individual vigilance is not a realistic way to ensure organizational security. Therefore, we developed QAAP, a platform that incorporates guardrails against such risks in advance. We operate by forking this for each user and team, making it a home base when using AI agents. By doing so, the maintenance and updating of guardrails, such as risk countermeasures, the original upstream is centrally managed, and each individual simply syncs, creating a system where countermeasures are uniformly applied across the entire organization. Next, I will briefly introduce the contents of those guardrails. The underlying concept is what is known as multi-layered defense. We have multiple layers of countermeasures in place, so even if one is bypassed, the next layer will stop it. We are creating such a state. This time, I will briefly introduce some typical examples. For example, we will introduce guardrails for familiar secrets that are often handled in practical work, such as API keys and tokens. For example, if you store a personal access token in plain text in an ENB file, there's a higher risk of it leaking externally if the device or repository is ever compromised. In QAAP, such information is managed using encrypted storage, like 1Password and Keychain. We have a policy of retrieving secrets safely only when needed. This policy is automatically enforced by the QAAP as a system, without relying on the user's discretion. Here are examples of our multi-layered defense. First, secrets cannot be read directly from the MV or environment variables, and it is blocked by Codex's execution policy. In addition, we conduct checks before and after that. At the entry point before that, when the user sends a prompt to the AI, when a string matching a common pattern, such as an API key or various tokens, is detected, transmission is halted just before the data is passed to the AI. And even if it slips through the entrance, the output side is checked once more. Before creating a request, this checks if the code or skills created depend on or refer to secret files from a different angle than the initial entry point. By layering these guardrails at multiple points, we are able to handle various cases. Furthermore, it not only stops risks without the user even being aware of it. At the same time, we encourage the individual to become aware of the issues, alerting immediately when it's caught. It tells you why you were blocked and how to deal with it, with guidance to the relevant documentation. Indeed, from the users themselves, we received feedback that this notification helped people understand the necessity of risk countermeasures and how to deal with them. While automatically mitigating risks, user understanding also progresses. We are seeing some positive results in that regard. I'd like to briefly touch on a few other points. First, there is the risk of introducing dangerous elements from outside, such as the supply chain attacks mentioned earlier. This involves using only secure internal registries and NPM settings. During installation, we've configured it to not run scripts automatically. Another is the operational risk unique to AI agents. For example, file deletion, such as RM, preventing the execution of an irreversible deletion command. We control it to limit operations to reversible ones, such as moving to the trash. With this, we are prepared for the worst-case scenario where AI might mistakenly delete everything, making it irreversible. So this is just a part of it, but we have put in place guardrails in various places to avoid risks as much as possible through mechanisms. That was a brief introduction. However, for those who are already familiar, this content might have seemed obvious. Despite this, why are we making such detailed settings? Yes, various guardrails include: there is a common purpose. What is it? As described in the slide, this means we are prepared for the characteristics we are not good at. All right, let's take a look at these one by one. The first characteristic we're not good at is as instructed. The second is, let's remember important rules. The third is reading and correctly understanding the written text. Fourth, saying, I don't know, when you don't know. Yeah. And finally, the agent autonomously gathers missing information. These all seem like things that should be self-evident. Therefore, I truly feel every day that I am not good at these things. This is not about AI. This is about humans. This applies very much to me as well. Everyone, are there any questions? They might think, I don't need to say it. You'll understand. Just because it's written doesn't mean people will read it. If you don't understand, I assume it will investigate and ask around. That expectation, the experience of completely missing each other, and the more we took things for granted, the more this can lead to fatal misunderstandings. So, finally, to summarize this part, at this point, some of you may have thought this. That's right, the changes on the AI side are indeed very fast. That is why QAAP is. We focused on what wouldn't change. That is, this is about the weaknesses of humans who use AI. Therefore, instead of relying on human attention, we stop it with a mechanism. This is QAAP's consistent approach. This is our design philosophy, and what I most wanted to convey in this part today. Now that I've said what I wanted to say, the first hurdle, balancing the accelerator and the brake, is concluded here. To summarize, equipped with both accelerator and brake as standard, users can focus on the accelerator. That was the story of how we solved this through role sharing. However, just providing the mechanism is not enough to ensure everyone utilizes it. That is the second remaining hurdle. How did we break through this and move forward? Now I'll hand it back to Ueda-san to continue the story. I'm back. The second hurdle is not. I will be talking about spreading AI utilization throughout the entire organization, not just to a select few. Earlier, Mr. Fukunaga talked about the QAAP. This is really important. Having just a mechanism makes it difficult to embed it across the entire organization. To embed the system within the organization, it's crucial to have specific mechanisms in place. Regarding this initiative, I will now elaborate. So, to get to the bottom of it, we simply iterated through these three elements: understanding the current situation, devising countermeasures, improving, and measuring. If we measure again, we can see the current situation and then improve. Exactly. It's not a special framework or anything, it's just a simple improvement loop. It seems easy, but actually, it's quite difficult to keep it running smoothly. Let's take a look at each of them. So, first, regarding understanding the current situation, approximately 1 year before developing QA app, the organization was already promoting the use of generative AI. There are two main points: setting up a shared space and initiatives across the entire organization. For example, in a shared space, we created a chat channel on Slack specifically for AI-related discussion, or enabling casual communication. We created several subcommittees focusing on AI-related themes. Over a period of 3 months, we had them do various things, and we also held LD meetings. As for the efforts of the entire organization, at the monthly unit-wide meeting, we share the organization's overall policy on generative AI, information on trends, and also we felt we had done everything we could, such as including AI items in goal setting early on and providing individual follow-ups in one-on-ones. So, we created the platform, actively shared information, and provided individual support. But, however, the subsequent actions are left up to individuals, and ultimately, each person has to make an effort on their own. It was. From the perspective of those promoting AI utilization, we feel like we're doing a lot, but there's a weak sense that the organization as a whole is raising its level. And I had the feeling that there was a variation in the degree of utilization. To be honest, I don't know how each individual is using it. Therefore, I decided to accurately assess our current position and visualize the organization's utilization of AI. Therefore, we created something called the AI Skill Maturity Model. This is, we use Dene's AI skill evaluation metrics as a reference and customized them for our office. For example, levels 1 and 2 involve using chat AI for organizing thoughts or summarizing text, which are supplementary uses not integrated into business processes. On the other hand, levels 3 and 4 utilize context engineering and harness engineering, among others, to we are currently in a state where we can handle deliverables and business processes with AI leadership. We use this maturity model to conduct a survey on the extent of AI utilization. Looking at the actual survey results, more than half were at level 1 or 2. On the other hand, there were already people who had reached levels 3 and 4 and were able to perform their work with AI-driven operations. The data clearly showed us that there was a variation in the degree of utilization. Of course, we want those who are good at it to keep advancing. From an organizational perspective, we want to return that to the entire organization and hope it raises the overall level. Unless we stop individual efforts of working hard and move forward as an organization. Therefore, by creating a system, we make the knowledge and know-how of those who are ahead available to everyone. I believe we were able to make these decisions because we could understand the current state of the organization through data. We have the data, so the next step is to take action. So, what we did first was to hold a full day offline hands on workshop to get the entire organization to use QAAP. Based in Tokyo, but we also had people living in Nagoya. We gathered everyone in Fukuoka and adjusted the operations of multiple projects as much as possible. This was in February 2026, and at that time, the entire company was still primarily online, but we intentionally brought everyone together to conduct it offline. So why did we specifically go offline? Ultimately, each person doing their best resulted in a structure where individuals had to bear the burden of the mechanisms themselves. The fact that we're not getting consultations doesn't mean they're self-sufficient. It means they don't know enough to ask. It's hard to share knowledge, and I can't ask deep questions, so it's difficult to apply it to my own work the next day. Ultimately, and only those who could do it would. As an organization, that's not healthy. This encompasses all such thing to resolve. At the same time, in the same place. Let's do it together, right before your eyes. By doing so, if you don't understand, you can ask right there, how do I do this? We designed the hands-on training to be applicable to their own work, so they could use it in their work starting the next day. Then, those who can do it from the start will support those who are not yet able to on the same PC. You absolutely cannot create this kind of atmosphere online. Although cost and adjustments are challenging, we decided that creating an opportunity for everyone to at least experience it was the most important thing at this phase, and so we went ahead with it. Because we conducted hands-on sessions, everything started to run smoothly. That's not how it works. Hands-on sessions merely create an opportunity for everyone to start on the same footing. If we end there, we'll revert to everyone working on their own again. We need a mechanism to continuously cycle through improvement loops to ensure adoption. Therefore, we decided to visualize the current situation again. At that time, the maturity model that I introduced earlier had served its purpose. So we switched to a QA app usage questionnaire. Based on that survey data, we held 3 improvement sessions. The first is, all members also participate in the QA app regular meeting at various events. This includes policies related to AI, information sharing, and updates for QAAP. Based on a survey filled out by our members, we set aside time for them to discuss amongst themselves. The second one, in the regular meeting of the QA app promotion team, we incorporate opinions and improvement suggestions from surveys into the QA app platform's enhancements. For example, the output accuracy of this skill is low, or I want a skill like this, and so on. The third is at the leader's regular meeting. By observing the trends in the questionnaire, we will formulate a strategy for how to provide individual member support. If there's a member who isn't making progress in utilizing it, identify the obstacles and address them. One questionnaire simultaneously drives 3 improvements: horizontal deployment, platform improvement, and individual follow-up. You might have a question at this point. You were already doing information sharing, regular meetings, and outreach, right? So why did things suddenly start moving once everyone could use QA? This is because the resolution of sharing changed due to the existence of the QA app mechanism. Because everyone is on the same common system, QAAP, you can have common, concrete discussions, and it becomes easier to reproduce others' clever ideas yourself. Within the loop of initiatives we've been carrying out, specificity and reproducibility emerge. I think this is the What happened as a result of continuing these steady improvement loops? What does that mean? Recently, it has become possible to visualize the utilization status of generative AI within the company on an organizational unit basis. The horizontal axis represents the AI utilization rate. The further to the right you go, the more people in the organization are using it. The vertical axis represents the median number of uses for everyone. The higher up, the more frequently it is used. In other words, the further you go to the upper right, the more people are using it extensively. Now, where are we? It's the top right one. Usage is 100%. The median frequency of use as well. All unit leaders and all members are proficient in using AI agents. Of course, it wasn't like this from the beginning. As a result of continuously iterating through persistent improvement loops, we have arrived at this point. Of course, not only has it become a state where everyone can use it as a matter of course, but as introduced at the beginning, it has also clearly shown results. Here, let me introduce one report. Google's Dora, known for its 4 keys, I believe. This Dora, this is the conclusion from the 2025 report. The success of AI adoption is not a matter of tools, but a matter of organizational systems. He said, organizational systems. It refers to the foundational capabilities that support development organizations. They also state that AI's role is that of an amplifier. If the organizational system is in place, AI amplifies strengths, and conversely, if things are not well organized, dysfunction will be amplified. When I read this report, it was like checking our answers for what we had done. Finally, looking back at this initiative, ultimately, I believe these 2 points were crucial. They are. It's about a sense of urgency and leading by example. The first is, regarding my sense of urgency, I am a unit lead, and, to be honest, and I'm a bit embarrassed to admit it, until about last December, we weren't using AI agents at all. Even with the AI utilization maturity model we just discussed, I believe we were somewhere between level 2 and 3. On the other hand, there's Fukunaga-san, who was known as the Minister of Generative AI at the time, uses AI agents extensively. Around the end of 2025, Mr. Fukunaga will be in a casual Slack channel. We shared a YouTube video about starting with an AI agent. It was about an hour and a half long, so I honestly thought it's a hassle to watch. I had some time at the end of the year, so I thought I'd take a look. I watched that YouTube video and actually tried out an AI agent myself. I was truly shocked. I felt that a paradigm shift was already beginning before our eyes. AI, which is rewriting everything at an incredible speed. If we don't become the ones who fully utilize it, in the future, neither organizations nor individuals will be able to. At that time, a strong sense of crisis emerged, feeling that we would not survive. However, an organization cannot be motivated by a sense of crisis alone. The people who operate the mechanisms and devices take the initiative and lead the way. I believe it's important to lead by example through our actions. If AI can bring about 10x speed or disruption and creation, if the person saying such things wasn't using AI at all, I don't think it would be convincing at all. Therefore, the initiator thoroughly touches, uses, and becomes knowledgeable about it. By doing so, the specificity of the strategy increases. I believe it makes the story more convincing. I believe it will be the greatest driving force. Finally, here's a summary of today's presentation. Against the 2 walls that hinder organizational AI utilization, We have been addressing this issue with both mechanisms and strategies. We absorb visual barriers with the QA app platform and persistently address human psychological barriers through continuous improvement loops. That's all. This concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.